My tagline has always been to help myself, because I'm a human right along, and others heal, learn, and grow. And that has expanded. I now love helping people not only heal, learn, and grow, but to know and live their big dream.
Welcome to the Phase 4 podcast, inspired by Vishen Lakiani and Ajit Nawalkar, co-founders of EverCoach, a division of Vine Valley. In this podcast, we speak to coaches and creatives about where they were, where they are, and where they are going. This is an intersection of what we focus on expands, and your story is your superpower. My guest today is Jennifer Carey. She's an educational specialist, a licensed mental health counselor, a psychotherapist, a Reiki practitioner, and much more. Jennifer is a coach, a creative, and a true light worker. Her passion and compassion are evident, and her gifts are plentiful. She is here to help people tap into their true potential, overcome doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs. Her empathy extends beyond borders, and I'm grateful to bring her to you today. Jennifer, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, JP. I'm so honored to be here. And thank you for that introduction. Sweet.
Thank you. Yes. So maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do, and kind of how you got into it.
Oh my goodness. Those questions. Where do we begin, right? Where do we begin? I think where I am right now, I'm in my office, which is an office where I see individuals and couples, as well as groups, helping people just get through this life. My tagline has always been to help myself, because I'm a human right along, and others heal, learn, and grow. And that has expanded. I now love helping people not only heal, learn, and grow, but to know and live their big dream. So that's kind of a big umbrella, but specifically psychotherapy. I'm writing a book, illuminating the stories that bind us, based on my life, and then also my podcast where I help people share stories that they may be holding and beliefs that they may be holding, and just the process of them voicing it, then is part of getting a hold of the story instead of the story leading their lives, and then using music, and I also love the idea of using performing arts to help them transform through those stories. So that was a little bit of where I am, where I'm going. So you wanted to know how did I get here? How did I get here, JP? Um, I've always known, like, my earliest memories of it, like of what I wanted to do involved like counseling and teaching others. So I feel fortunate that I always knew that. Did I take a straight road? No, no. So all you out there who are like, where am I going? And it's okay to like meander and not have it be like a straight direct road. I had some bumps. I had my own limiting stories. I had just, stories of others that I took on myself. But I am so grateful to be here now. And I really feel like I'm doing the work that I love and the work that I'm meant to be doing, and hope I can help others do the same.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so cool that you're just like, it's not a straight line, right? This is something you knew you wanted to do, but to get there, it's never going to be the way you picture it, right? We can set our intentions, our visions out there, and it happens a different way. And without those trials and tribulations, and it's some ups and downs, but without that, there's no journey, right? It's not just the end destination. It's like the steps that you take on the way is what makes you who you are. And you're a pretty awesome person.
Exactly. Oh, thank you, JP. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And I think it's made me a better therapist, those life experiences and those lessons. And had I went straight to that, I don't know. And that's no offense to people who do. I commend you for just being focused and getting it done. But I don't know if I'd be the same. The same. I had so many like spiritual awakenings and life lessons, and I feel like I bring all of that now.
Yeah, it's huge, right? Because you're not just like sympathizing, you can actually empathize because you've
Yes,
experienced it. Um,
exactly.
And yeah, for some people, it is just a real Satori, aha, like bang, this is it. And this is where we're going. And there's easy. But then for others, it's like a more struggle. Mine was a real long struggle. And I think Dennis Miller has a book, Building Business, or Business Made Simple is the name of the book. And he has a quote that I'm going to butcher here, but it's something about those who have come the farthest have like the most light to share or something like that.
I like that.
So you did just touch on as we're talking about light illuminating the stories that bind us, which is so fitting because you're a light worker and because you're tapping into other people to allow them to share their light, which is what I believe is the purpose why we're all here, is to share our light with the world and make it a better place. So can you maybe
Amen.
can you expand on that podcast? What does it look like, or even the book? When's it coming out?
Yes, 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 yes. So I'll start with the podcast. The podcast it still exists and is going. If any of your listeners want to be a participant, please consider it. It's interesting. The first season, what we did was I shared a couple of my own stories in the first episodes to just kind of give everybody a context, like these are some limiting stories that I've had in my life. One is, I'm not enough for my family. Another one is, I'm not lovable, just these stories that we can carry on as if they're true, but they're not, right? JP, we know this, they're not. So the idea of the podcast is participants have a choice to be anonymous and come on and just be able to share their story. And that sets them free and everyone else that has that story, right? Or can relate to it. In the first season, I had my music coaches who are very near and dear to my heart, Nick and Tess Pulver, prescribe a song. They've been doing that forever. And so they have this ability to hear what a story is and prescribe a song to help you break through that story. So that's season 1. Season 2, I've been working more with singer-songwriter Shannon Ward, and we pretty much do the same thing. It's been visual though as well. So people that choose to can be, what's the opposite of anonymous, could be shown to show their face and their name, and they do the same thing. They'll share a story that's been holding them back from what they really want. Stories about relationships, stories about money, stories about anything, and they share it, and then Shannon and I prescribe a song, and then peppered in are different interviews that I have with different people. But the hope is, JP, is that not only the participant of the podcast is illuminating a story and breaking free, everyone who listens has the same experience.
Beautiful. Yeah. And a part what I'm hearing there is there's different modalities for different people, because we're not all the same, right? So some people it might be a song, some people it might be a picture. And all these are different ways to break through. And then another part of that I'm hearing is that, like you started at the beginning about writing it down. So now we're speaking our story, but the same thing, getting it out of our head instead of just having it crossed up inside our head. And then what happens for me, writing is mine, but I can see it for just talking or any other way, art. What happens is you start telling your story or writing it down and you look at it and say, wait a minute, is that actually my story? Or is that a story that I was just carrying, right? And just like a bag full of rocks you've been carrying for 20 or 30 years, you can let go of it right now and just stop and change.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And a lot of times I know, what you just described, JP, like how it's all like mangled in our brains. We're not even aware of it. We're not even aware of it. And we just make all of our choices, and that story is completely driving the bus. And that's what I love. Like when you can put it out there, that's when we begin to gain awareness and be empowered and start to change the story.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think there's a couple other video series you have aside from that. So Shortcuts to Zen with Jen is awesome. I want you to speak to that. And maybe when we first met during COVID, you started with your colleague and best friend a series called Conscious and Connected.
Yes.
And that was to spread light in a really, really dark time. And you guys were so quick to do that. You jumped on it like right around the same time that the toilet paper flew off the shelves, and and you didn't really wait. But so can you speak to both of those in whatever order you wish?
Yeah, I'll start with Conscious and Connected. That I have to give full credit to Dana Wood. Dana Wood like contacted me and she's like, Jen, I think people need us right now. I'm like, absolutely. She's like, I have this idea that if like we can just have interviews and just interview people on ways that they're getting through this time or any, can shed light and help us be connected. I was like, I'm in. I'm in. I mean, most collaborations with Dana were both like, yep. So that was just amazing. And JP, you were one of the interviews, and I remember you had like that. Was it like the five things, or like you had like this beautiful way to set up your day, and like a routine that is just so important and can never be like taught enough. Like it can be taught to infinity. It's so good to hear. So yeah, there were just nuggets like that that we were able to get from various people. So that's probably somewhere out there, probably on Dana's integrative counsel. Shortcuts to Zen with Jen is on my YouTube channel. That actually was one of the many things born of COVID, right? It feels like COVID, for all of its difficulty, challenges, and all that, I think a lot of people incubated, and suddenly we like had all these ideas and thoughts, and now we're all blasting them out, and they're coming together, and it's great. But Shortcuts to Zen with Jen was one of the ones that I had where I love mindfulness. I feel like mindfulness tips and just present moment awareness and anything we can do to help us connect with being more aware and being more connected to the present is just so powerful. So, Shortcuts to Zen with Jen is exactly that. Like anything from how can we eat more mindfully to how can we converse more mindfully to how can we go through difficulty emotions more mindfully. So that's Shortcuts to Zen with Jen. Yeah.
Thank you. That's amazing. So I wrote a book and I brought it out on July 1st, and I was just earlier
That's my
this.
birthday. You had a
Is
book come
it?
out on my birthday. Yes.
That's Canada's birthday too. Um,
Yes.
so I was on a podcast earlier this week, and the girl was asking, like, what would you say to people for the very first, like, where do you begin, right? And
Yeah.
awareness, you said it right there. Awareness is the key. And so, like, if you're not aware, you're just simply not aware. And you touched on a spiritual awakening, sometimes back and forth. This happened to me in 2019, a year before COVID, which was awesome because when COVID came, I was like already aware and awake and ready to go. And so just when you said that about awareness, that is the key. The very first step has to be awareness. The book, by the way, is called Words from Walden.
Love it.
And I use a pen name, H. Davy Thoreau.
That's so funny. And I'm near Walden Pond. I'm guessing that yes,
I
yeah,
know, yeah. Um,
yeah. Yes, that's so cool. Congratulations. Good for you.
Thank you.
Not a
Yeah.
small feat.
No. And there was still, you think there used to be a time when like not everyone could publish a book. Everyone could write a book, but not everyone could publish a book. But now with like Kindle and these kind of things, anyone can do both. So yeah,
Hmm.
and I'd also believe everyone has a story inside them. So it's so
True.
important to share it.
True.
And so as we're talking about light and light workers, I know this month has two full moons. Yeah, that doesn't really happen ever, right? Usually there's 12 a
No.
year. This year there's 13. But I was checking out your website and you have a bunch. Your website's awesome, by the way. And you have a
Thank
bunch of different offerings, but I think my listeners would be inclined to something like the full moon package. So can you speak to that maybe?
Yes, yeah, yeah. That's another one Dana and I put together. And we love the idea of rituals. And so we wanted to help connect people with healing rituals that are connected with the moon cycle. So we feel strongly that the new moon, which was yesterday, wasn't it? Was the new moon yesterday? Uh, I should know that as I deliver this, but the new moon is all about bringing in like there's space. So what can we call into our lives, and how can we set intentions? And so that course is full of various journal prompts and rituals that you can do around the new moon to help call in what you wish to have more in your life. And then the full moon it's full. There's nothing left. What do you need to get rid of? So rituals about letting go of what no longer serves you. So yeah, that's available. And I want to say, what is it like? $11.11 or something. It's something very accessible, and we made it that way. But you'll have it, and you'll be able to have the structure and the prompts and just the written directions for various rituals around the moon cycle.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think my listeners would be into that. So I thought I would
Oh, I'm
bring it up.
glad you brought that up. Yeah.
And then I meant to on the last exchange, you were talking about mindfulness and these kind of things and how my routine was and everything like that. But I know you have a sacred routine. I've seen your spot and it's really cool. And yeah, I wonder maybe if you could share part of your routine. What kind of things do you do to stay mindful? And self-care is so important, right?
Yeah. God, it's so important, JP. So important. Well, I I'll talk about it like my one of my favorite routines, because sometimes it does ebb and flow, but like my when the most delicious routine for me is in the morning. The first thing I do, like besides like wake up, brush my teeth, get dressed into some comfortable outfit, is I take my dog Misty for a walk. Um, my cat now wants to go with us, which is a whole other story. We won't go down that track, but it's added a little bit. It cramps Misty and I a little bit because we used to go much further, but the cat can't go as far. But anyway, and immediately puts me in nature. And when I do that, I just immediately feel grateful for the day. It's usually around 5:30 or 6 o'clock a.m. And I just look at the sun rising, which happens every day, but I can see it most days. And I get a huge sense of gratitude immediately. And then I just walk her in nature. She's happy as can be. And I get back, I make a cup of tea, and then do some sort of meditation. I have various meditations, from my Reiki training to, uh, you know, um, yoga nidra meditations to I'm most recently learning Kundalini meditation from a dear friend, Olga. She has a course that she's doing. I'm doing that. So, all these wonderful meditations that just get me centered and aligned. And then I love to write, JP. So that's like my favorite thing, to then just either dive into my book or a free write journal or my newsletters. I send out a bunch of newsletters as often as I can. Ah, that's the most delicious right there.
I agree. Yeah, it's so special, right? And then, like we always say, right, you got to fill up your own cup before you can serve everyone else, which I know you're doing so beautifully. So it's just important, right? We have to have it. And I like what you said, how it doesn't always stay the same. It changes a bit because otherwise it will get stale. So I'm kind of like, it happens to me too. It's usually seasons. I go with the seasons, it kind of changes. And then I'm finding that the next year I'll end up back in the same meditations or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think maybe we'll kind of switch towards Mind Valley, but like, maybe what's some, I know you love Jeffrey Allen, but do you have other authors or quests, from Mind Valley that you enjoy or even talk about Jeffrey Allen?
Yeah. Well, I've gotten a lot of that through Dana Wood. She adores Mind Valley and has like taught me a lot like through her. And then of course you too, JP. That's how you and Dana met, right? Didn't you meet at a conference? Weren't you like sitting next to each other at a conference, which is magical and synchronous? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, what I loved about Jeffrey Allen. So I did a course with Jeffrey Allen that was all about like energy, but the word that's coming to my mind is boundaries, just like having, being a really sensitive person, being very sensitive to energy, which is like one of my superpowers. Like I can tell immediately. Another thing I've had since I was a child. I remember walking down the street being like, I feel what they're feeling. I feel what they're feeling. I feel, and just having that, how does that work for me? Because it can make me a huge, empathetic, compassionate, helpful person. But then also, how does it drain me? And so how do I harness that? And I just feel like Jeffrey Allen has a very like gentle martial artistry way of doing it, whether it's his one of his my favorite meditations that he has is the rose, the permission rose, and just imagining the rose and First of all, I love that flower. It's my favorite flower. And just having that visual of having it at arm's length away from you from all sides, and just you give permission for what comes through. Um, and just making sure, because sometimes that sensitivity can have us close our hearts. And so I feel like his work helps us so that we can keep our hearts open out in the world, but not take on everything that can just kind of come through and, cause you to build walls and all that. So that's a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. It's a lot of coaches I notice are empathic, and I am too. And it's difficult to you feel the energy, but it also drains you. Drain is the perfect word. And so
Mm.
um Jeffrey Allen is really good at that. I'm wondering, how do you kind of not defend against that, but how do you counter that? Like, because it could suck your energy and then you have nothing left for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, going back, I mean, we could say this all day long. Doing some sort of morning routine. The other thing I do, by the way, is yoga. So getting into my body is also in that way. I try to do that at least 3 times a week. So I feel like if I'm physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally grounded and nourished, and whether it's the morning routine or exercise and healthy eating, then it's a lot harder to penetrate. It's a lot harder to kind of go through and be draining. I'm more solid and grounded going into whatever I go into. So that's bang key right there. Um, Sometimes, JP, in the moment, I have to be very conscious of it. If I start to feel something really intense that has a negative feeling to it, I immediately start visualizing. So I immediately start visualizing the rose. I immediately start visualizing, I always say like a spark. I love sparkles. So like a sparkly bubble around me. I'll be walking down the street. Sometimes I even say it to the person I'm walking with, and they're kind of like, okay. And I'll feel or see something coming towards us, and I'll just say, put a sparkly bubble around you. And they're like, oh, okay. And I tell my clients all the time. If I'm driving, I can feel road rage like a mile away. And so if I'm driving and I feel that sparkly bubble around my car, that's a little trick I use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's good because you're very intuitive, right? And so I'm practicing my intuition and I can feel it getting stronger and I feel like I'm really intuitive. So when you have those things, you need to have a plan kind of in place. Okay, this is going to happen at some point, so this is how I'm going to counter it instead of just reacting, right? Then oh, that happened, and
Yes.
then you're reacting.
Yeah.
The rose thing. I read this book about philosophy. It was probably written in the 1950s or 60s, and the guy talks about the masculine and feminine, and he uses a rose as an example, and it is magic. He says
Mm.
the masculine is like the idea, right? The rose is this many inches or centimeters. It has this many petals. It has these colors, and it's all thoughts. And then the feeling is the feminine, and all he does is take the rose and smell it.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, that's a great example. And then you mentioned Dana a couple times. So I got to say something here. So Dana was the very first guest on this podcast. Yeah. And you're like number 63 or 64, which is awesome.
Look at you, JP. Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah, thank you. And so the story there is it's about fear. It's one about fear. So when I was scheduled to record Dana and the second guest, his name's Corey, a tornado ripped through our neighborhood. We didn't have internet for a whole month last year. And it was a thing where like, okay, I could cancel this. What should I do? Like, I'm sure everyone would understand. A tornado came, there's no internet. Instead, I booked a room in the library and I said, I'm going to record them anyway. Like, I'm not letting my fear stop me, or I'm not letting this challenge. It's the challenge, right? And so we got
Yeah.
to fight through it. And it becomes a story to help other people grow. And if anyone loads back to that very first and second episode, you can hear it is horrible. The library had wooden panels in this room, right? It was all just wooden walls. And because you're not allowed to talk in a library, I didn't test the audio. So I jump on the call. And then right away when I started talking, I was like, oh man. And yeah, so the information and content is good. The guests are amazing on the other side. But from my angle, the audio is garbage. But I could have like deleted it or forgot about it or not even done it, right? But this is about showing up. It's about fighting through the challenges because, yeah, okay, you could have canceled it or done something else, but then you're just delaying it. And also,
Mhm.
that's like, it's just what life's about, right? You got to work through, like, there's going to be challenges. So we got to work through it. Uh, and then I guess I would love to maybe talk about mentors and maybe some books or coaches. I got a book here I know you'll like. It's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your
Oh,
Life,
I
The
love you,
Wisdom of
Wayne
the Young.
Dyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe some books or mentors like in Mind Valley, outside of Mind Valley that have helped you along the way.
Yeah, yes. Um, so yeah, Dr. Wayne Dyer is a huge one. I remember reading The Power of Intention when I was like, gosh, 22, 21, 22, and that was pretty life-changing. I adore him and his teachings and everything. Brene Brown has become huge. I love her, love what she has brought in stories of shame, um, compassion. She was a huge mentor. I don't know. She doesn't know this. I don't know if she knows this. I was about to say she does not know this. But I recently, planning to do another one, but over a year ago, I did a retreat like festival that was called the Wow Stage, and it invited people to write their own song and perform it with a live band and do various workshops that help them illuminate the stories that bind them, create vision boards, create a lullaby for their inner child. Like it was all just goodness, just dream come true for me, JP. And opening night, I decided to be the example. I decided I'm going to sing because that is just a dream that I've always had. I'm going to sing in front of all of you. I'm going to sing songs that help me break through my limiting stories and beliefs and whatever. So I do it. And then it was like the biggest high I've ever had. And then I had the biggest drop I've ever had. I mean, the vulnerability hangover was beyond. And speaking of the fear and overcoming the challenge of like doing something and putting yourself out there, then it's oh my God, what did I just do? Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, like 100% healed me. Like bibliotherapy is real. Like that, um, that book like guided me. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, JP, but she has that amazing quote from Teddy Roosevelt about like, because there were critics, there were people that gave feedback that were like, oh, you should probably practice singing more. And it's like, oh, you missed the point. And like just things like that. And just her like, if you're not going to get in the arena, I I don't know what to say to you. I got into the arena. And so I just, oh, she's good. Love Brene. Um, so yeah, there's lots of other spiritual, people. Byron Katie, I feel like I really appreciate her work, and that's huge about these stories because I think most of the stories we carry around are not true, right? The truth is we are light. The truth is that we are born to shine, and so any other story is false. Um, so I love how she just confronts stories. JP, I've had so many healers. I've had therapists. I've had coaches. I mention them all in my book. Uh, that I am like so appreciative if I can just send the vibration of gratitude to their hearts psychically right now. It hasn't happened alone. I have a ton of friends, family that support me. Um, I'm really blessed that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is amazing. I want to go back to your hangover in a minute, but for some reason that Michael Singer's coming up for me.
Oh,
You have
yes.
something to tell me about Michael Singer? I don't know.
That's so funny. Oh, I love your psychic stuff. Love the Surrender Experiment. Love that book. But I don't know if you know the story about Dana and I. We were away at a retreat we were away at this retreat near Gainesville, Florida. And for those of you that know Michael Singer, and there is a name for it. And there is a much more spiritual name. I'm just going to call it a compound. He has like a place where people come together and they do kirtans and meditations and group meditations. So Dana and I showed up, and it was this stormy night. It was like out of Wizard of the Oz, where we were driving and somebody from the retreat center was driving us. And we arrived there and Michael Singer guided us into meditation and just did some organic speech. And yeah, I can't even put words to it. So, did you even know that? Did I even write that down? That was just a psychic
No,
hit.
no. I'm
That was just,
definitely flying by intuition this year. I have a theme word for every year. This year is intuitive sage. And this has been happening all year where I'll ask people something like that. And then all of a sudden this amazing story comes out. I'm like, wow.
yes. And it figures it's connected with Dana. Dana was right there with me. And it was so cool. It was so cool. We were in his ashram. I don't know.
It's
Sorry.
called the Temple of the Universe. That's
Oh,
the name
okay.
of the place. And
Okay.
so yeah, that book is really good. The Surrender Experiment. And then for anyone reading these, I would also say Untethered Soul. Read that one first.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, because we're talking about writing, there is a lot of writers that I know in my audience. So when you're writing a book, this is a good way to do it if you're writing, because what he does in Untethered Soul, he tells like objective human story. And then the Surrender Experience, the follow-up book, it's his personal story. So put your work out there, give the objective story first, and then give your own personal story. Just an idea. Obviously, you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe, yeah, can you expand maybe on the wow stage? How did that come about? And I know it's a lifelong dream. Before you get to that, I know exactly what you're saying about that dip. I ran a marathon in May and I was training from like January, February, March, and just so intense, right? And then you run this marathon and it's like, what? And then I was literally depressed, like in bed, depressed. But I read about it. I knew it was coming. So I was able to counter it. But yeah, I experienced that same dip that you're talking about after the singing. And so what is that? Is that because you had all these things going and you're thinking about it and doing and then all of a sudden it's like over?
I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is that when we do follow our dreams, it's vulnerable. It's out of our comfort zone, right? I love that quote. Everything we want is one step outside our comfort zone. So there is this, like very sensitive, self-conscious thing that happens when we've allowed ourselves to shine and live our biggest dream.
Yeah. It's like a release of energy, right? So the energy has to change a little bit and then it can come back and you get there again. But
Yes. Yeah. 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 I think, just reintegrating everything. And when we can get to a place where like uh, we don't judge the shining. We don't judge the emotions that come during it. We don't judge the emotions that come after it. We just allow it all to be in flow. Like that's the goal, but
for sure. I tell people anxiety is like, it's not like what might or might not happen in the future. It's you wanting to control what might or might not happen in the future.
very
Right?
true. Very true. Yeah.
Um, and so as we're beginning to wind down, if this episode resonates with you, share it, like it, subscribe, share it with a friend. And if you're a coach or creative and you think you have a compelling story, get in touch with us and we'll get you on the podcast. And I think I would like to ask my favorite question. I ask every guest this. So this is the Phase 4 podcast, and Phase 4 of the 6-phase meditation by Vishen Lakhiani is all about creating your future 3 years out. So where is Jen 3 years from today?
Author, speaker, retreat facilitator, and I sing. I sing during my retreats and outside.
Yeah, love it. I sing only in the shower. I had a coach on here a couple of months ago, and he was saying that he uses this as part of his healing for people, is that he'll tell them to sing. And he said every time people are like, no, I don't sing. He's like, okay, just start in the shower. And then he said, what happens after a while is people start singing in other places, and it's healing for sure, right?
I love it. I love it. I hope you come to a wow stage sometime, JP, and you sing.
Yeah, that would be nice. I would love to. You don't want to hear me sing though.
No, that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. I think we were all born to sing. I think it's a shame we don't sing because we're afraid of what we sound like, but that'll take me down a whole other road.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. If you think like as evolutionary traits, like we never had languages. We must have started by just making noises and then even you go back to ancient traditions and
Yeah.
chanting and these kind of things. I was talking to one guy. It's like, it feels like it's almost like your thoughts are there, right? And you send your thoughts out, and that's like the beginning. But the more then you write them down, or that's another step. But singing it and saying that, it's a vibration that just bounces along outside, and it's like telling, "Hey, universe, this is what I want." But
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we could have a whole other episode on the power of singing and song and but just watch it. Just watch yourself, watch someone else when they sing and it shifts, it changes so
the,
much internally and externally.
the shift, you know what? In all 63 episodes, I never talked about the shift. I think
I was
you
going to
might have.
talk about it before and I didn't.
Wow. I think you introduced it to me actually, and I watched it and
Oh,
it was like, wow. So this is a YouTube video it's on YouTube for free. It's by Wayne Dyer and it's a film. And anyone who's on the spiritual path, I don't think it matters where you are on it. Watch this film, The Shift by Wayne Dyer.
absolutely. I watched that for a week, towards the wow stage. I would watch a little bit every night because I was like, I need this. I need this. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And
Mhm.
so maybe before I ask my final question, is there anything you want to share about yourself, your business, your practice, your personal life? Anything that we didn't kind of cover that you want to share?
Just that if this resonated with anyone and they would love to just share their story in any way that I have it, please go to jenniferhcarey.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. I think I'm Jennifer H. Carey on Instagram, so you can get a lot there. If you want to learn more about the Wow Stage, you can go to thewowstage.com. And it's wow, like Weekend of Wonder, supporting total artistic growth expression, the Wow Stage. Yeah, and just, JP, I love being a vehicle or someone to help people with illuminating a story that binds them. So, and right now it's free. So just to do it. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, beautiful. That's what it's all about, light. And so you stole my final question. Usually I ask people, where can people reach you? But you just got that.
All
So
right, there you go.
we'll
Covered it.
definitely, yeah, we'll put all those links in the show notes. And so, Jennifer, I'm just very, very grateful for you and your time today. And thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome, JP. Thank you for being you and thank you for having me on your incredible, incredible podcast number 63.
Thank you.